Hi, Eiji, and hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's good to see you again, Eiji. I know it's been a while since we've talked about channeling. I heard when we were talking off camera that you were getting into some really cool things with channeling recently.
Yeah. I'm learning Akashic Records reading now, and
Ooh.
it's very practical and it's not too woo woo. So it's very suitable for my style.
Yeah, Akashic Records.
Mm,
A lot of people, I'm sure when they imagine the Akashic Records,
mm,
most people jump to the image of a huge library somewhere on another planet,
yeah.
but it's
Mm,
actually another dimension, right? Not necessarily a library, but a place where all kind
mhm.
of information is stored. If I'm getting that correct.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like a backyard of the universe. So it's a
Hmm.
backside of the reality. So it doesn't actually exist in the realm, but it's just existing somewhere in this universe.
Now, you've gotten a
Mm.
chance to play around a little bit with Akashic Records. Um, I'm so curious because as soon as I found out about the Akashic Records, I always wanted to be able to access, to enter, but I feel like I've always been blocked. So,
Mm.
what have you seen when trying to access Akashic Records?
There are four abilities for readers. So one is
Mhm.
like visualize, visual, and sound, and feeling, touching, feeling, and also thought. But I'm good at viewing the image. So I yeah usually see images, but it doesn't have meaning. So I should build the stories from that image because it's very abrupt and then nonsense at the first sight.
Now, are you able to read your own records or only the records of other people? Because I know some channelers say
Mm.
they can't read themselves,
Mhm.
so they have to have other
Y-
channelers
Yeah.
or psychics.
Yeah. It's very hard to read myself
Mhm.
because when I read myself, I always have my ego and bias. So the result will be a little modified by my own thought. So
Right.
there's not pure image or how to read, or my perspective will be different from when I read others.
Now that's so interesting.
Mm,
I always heard, and I do
mm,
believe as well, that everybody has some kind of access to these records. Now I'm trying to think, um, and I don't know if it's ever happened to you where maybe you're doing something throughout your day and all of a sudden you think about something or you get a download, right? People will call them downloads,
mm, mm,
about something completely random, not in your lifetime. I know I've gotten some of these before where I feel like I accessed a part of me that I've been to before, that I lived before, but I know I haven't ever been in the middle of the jungle living somewhere. But
mm.
oftentimes, when I was younger, this would happen a lot. So, um, does the we can access the Akashic records, but do you have any idea if the Akashic records or something or someone is sending us images or memories?
It's not sending. It's more like we are just referring to the index. So always intention is necessary. So we have to have the intention first. Like I want to see something, like a certain thing.
Mhm.
Then they just send result or feedback. But it's a little tricky because you can't see the difference between your imagination and the actual message. So you might
Right.
think, oh, it's just my imagination. It's not the message, but it's
Mhm.
actually message, 100%.
It's wild because I can think of a million
Mm,
things that I believe are my imagination,
mm.
But they could be images from my own
Yeah,
record.
actually, your imagination is 100% the image from Akashic Records.
Mm,
So
mhm.
actually, everyone is connecting to the Akashic Record, but they don't have intention, so they can't control what to read or what to see. It's just random image from the Akashic Records. Yeah, because all the imagination or all the creative activities are from the Akashic Records. So there is no original work or creative activities from from nowhere.
And that sounds about right because if you think
Mm,
about it, did you ever hear about someone's story or maybe your own story where when you
mm,
were young, you knew that when you were older, you wanted to be a writer, or
mhm,
you were always interested in airplanes or always interested in these things and you never knew why, you just knew as a young kid you really liked these things? Time goes by, you forget about it. Some people don't. Some people pursue that and they go with it. They go with that idea, that hunch that they should do this in their life. Um, and some people don't, and they forget about it. But later on, either your soul or you remember that this is actually something you're very interested in. And so
mhm,
years down the line, you pick up a pen again and you start writing, or you begin drawing like you used to when you were young.
mm.
I think children probably pick up those signals a lot faster than adults who are busy with a 9 to 5 and don't have time to be creative and have hobbies. What do you think?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And so we have two ways of identities. One is your soul, and
Mhm.
one is your body or DNA from your ancestors, your family. So, so both are you, but there are two different paths, route.
Mhm.
So, but in the modern era, people are prioritizing your body character and then ignoring your soul's voice or character. That's why many people are struggling with their path or um, yeah, their lives. But yeah. So what was the question? Sorry.
No. Well, it was no question. I was just curious about
uh,
if something has ever happened to you similar to what
yeah.
I explained, where, for example, I know a little bit about, you know,
Yeah.
what you do now, right? You've got this really cool blog where you talk
Mm,
about
mm,
everything. But you didn't always write full time, right? You worked doing
mm,
something else before. But
mm.
you always knew deep inside of you, oh, I should pursue something that
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good to me, right? Um,
So yeah, so recently I try to follow my inner voice. That's why I feel how can I say it? Not happier but more natural.
mhm.
And more
Could you say authentic,
uh
maybe?
authentic. Yeah, authentic.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So I feel I'm being real me
Mhm.
and than before because I think, yeah, as I said, I'm following my inner voice. So inner voice is your soul's voice. And I think not everybody can hear that clearly because your inner voice is always irrational.
Always irrational?
Yeah, always irrational. Yes. So, but
Really? Tell me about that.
your voice of ego is always rational. So you might want to follow your ego because it's very logical, rational, and
Yeah.
more, like common sense based.
Oh, true. I mean,
Mm,
I have to when I look back on my life and I think about all the
yeah.
great experiences I've had, they've all have
Mm,
been from that inner voice that said, okay, do something crazy, but not something
Mm,
too crazy, you know? Maybe the rational part of me would have said, well, don't go hiking because you don't, you know, aren't you tired? Don't you want to go scroll on your phone on the couch? But
mhm,
the irrational part of me would say, you know, let's wake up at 4 a.m. and go hiking and try to see the sunrise and to make these really cool. And when I've done these experiences and I've done these kind of things, even though my ego, my physical body is wondering, why the hell did I do this? Or in the moment, right? Afterwards, there's a part of me that thinks, I'm so happy that I did this. It was crazy. And I don't do a lot of crazy things, but sometimes I do. Um, but that inner voice has been irrational. So to your point,
yeah.
um, I don't know. When's the last time you did something that your inner voice was telling you to do that you or maybe your ego was unsure about?
The biggest thing I did recently is that I quit my job. So
Oh my goodness. I'm sure
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
listeners will be
was
very
it's
surprised.
very irrational because
Yeah,
I had adequate salaries and it was very easy and I was
yeah,
good at it.
yeah,
So there were um no explanation that I should have
yeah,
quit my job at the time.
yeah,
But my inner voice kept telling me, just no, no more. You have to move on. That's not
yeah.
your stage anymore. Yeah.
Oh, and I have a question. When you felt that in your body, what did that feel like? Was it um did you feel ease, calm, anxious feelings,
Hmm.
nervousness? When you realized, "Oh, maybe I do have to quit my job." What was that like?
Mm. Uh, of course, I had been considering, yeah, many times for months.
Mhm.
But every time I imagined that I quit my job and starting new things, I
Yeah.
always feel excited.
Yeah.
And I felt my body and my soul and everything is welcoming that idea. But on the other hand, when I thought about the staying in that job,
Yeah.
I felt the heaviness and also like I don't know, yeah, it- a little dark
Mhm.
feelings. Yeah, it was very obvious, but still in my head, it was too irrational to quit the job, and there's no logical thought of quitting the job.
Mhm.
So yeah, I struggled with that standpoint between the ego and the my inner voice.
Do you think, imagine you were still at your company, still at your old job.
Mm.
Um, do you miss any part of it at all? Now that you're on the other side where you did leave?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually think about that a lot
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
because yeah, unfortunately, I don't make any results right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still seeking in the way I'm supposed to go. And of course, I don't have to worry about the income, like solid income. But again, when I imagine I'm still working for that company, I immediately feel the heaviness. So
Mm.
yeah, but that doesn't mean I hated that job or I dislike that job. I just it doesn't fit my vibration anymore. That's my feeling, or that's how I describe that.
Now, I'm wondering, now that you're on the other side, you don't work there anymore, do you think you'll consult? and look through the Akashic Records to see what comes next for you?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think I'm always connecting to my inner voice directly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a so we have our soul in our inside our bellies,
Hmm.
you know, the lower part of the belly. I don't know how to say in English.
The abdomen, maybe?
So
The abdomen?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
second chakra. So when I do go within in meditation, my focus is always around that area,
Yeah.
the second chakra. Yeah. So there is real you inside your belly. Yeah.
I see. Now,
Yeah.
I think for those that are interested in, I guess, just connecting with their inner voice and their inner,
Mm.
would you say higher self or just inner voice? If when you're talking about
Yeah.
Akashic Records.
So there's many ways to think about the higher self and the soul.
Hmm.
I thought higher self and soul are different, but they're actually the same route. So the higher self is like a broader idea that it includes your past life or future life, and yeah, everything, every patterns of your life. But soul is
Hmm.
just a present life.
Hmm.
So it's just a branch company,
Yeah.
like but
For
higher
lack of
self
a better
is
word.
just something, like a holdings.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's different. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who watch our videos and enjoy hearing these conversations
Mm,
probably might be wondering where to start with accessing their Akashic records.
mm,
I know one way is to seek somebody who channels and can connect, but it's also very possible to connect yourself to these records and
mm,
listen to your inner voice to see what your gut says. You know, like you were saying, the
yeah.
chakra um
Mm,
in the belly, often it doesn't lie, right? You'll feel something is meant for you or not really aligned with you. You'll
mm,
probably immediately feel it in your belly. Um, and for those watching that are, curious about where they should go, what they should do, what job they should have, maybe sit still for a little bit and try to connect with yourself. Because I think connecting to the Akashic record is probably not as complicated as it sounds, right?
right. Right.
So I'm hoping everybody was able to enjoy today's episode and join us again for more on Paradigm Surf.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Mm. Guys, see you.